Wait, did I just say right, 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 or right? Because you hear right. All of these words are pronounced exactly the same way. Let me try this. This is for work. This is for work. I don't know. It's so difficult. America's Got Germans! My name is Anni, and in my today's video I will share why I think it's so difficult for Germans to learn English, especially American English. Did you know that English has more words than most comparable word languages? In fact, English has 500,000 words, while German only has 135,000 words. Can you believe this? The reason for this is historical. So, English originally was a Germanic language, which is also related to Dutch and German, but later on it was influenced by French and Latin, which was the language of the church. So, also a lot of French and Latin words entered the language, and that is why English has a much larger vocabulary than either the Germanic language or the Romance language family, according to Oxford. Well, now let's assume I would be capable of learning 500,000 words. I know that you don't need to know all of them, but at least a fair amount. So let's assume I know a lot of words. I would be still so far away from knowing the language, and I will explain to you why. For German speakers, there are a couple of sounds that are so difficult to pronounce because they simply don't exist in the German language, like the TH. And what Germans do is they usually use the closest sound they know, which is a Z. So you might have heard Germans saying Z instead of the, right? But it's not only the famous TH, which is difficult for a German to say. I also realized that the R is a total different sound. You might think, isn't an R an R? No, it's not. So let's have a look at this word. A German, if you would use the German R, it would be right instead of right. So the German R is not as hard as the Russian R, I would say, but it's still a total different sound. And I really have to concentrate every time I want to say a word with an R to make the English R and not the German R. But the most difficult one for me is the American W or the English W. Oftentimes Germans want to say the German W whenever they see an English W, but here's the problem, that is a total different sound. Interestingly, the German W sound like an English V, like in very or never. But if you want to say an American W, it's more like, and I don't know how to describe it better, but you have to shape your lips like if you would like to kiss someone. So I guess it's not winter, but it's winter, isn't it? Really quick, guys, if you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe, like, or comment below. That would mean so much to me. Thanks in advance. But now, let's go back to the video. Okay, now, let's assume I learned all the new sounds, which is already very difficult. I still would not sound like an American, because Americans randomly drop letters. And I haven't realized until I watched a few of Rachel's video. By the way, I will link to her channel in the description box below. She's awesome. So I haven't realized till that day that I pronounced this word wrong. 20. It turns out it's not 20. Watch this.
It's very uncommon for an American to say the second T, 20. You'll almost always hear it as 20.
And willingly produce 20% less stuff.
Good people who are trying to be part of the 21st century economy.
What? Why? Same goes for kitchen counter. It is not kitchen counter, But
for Americans, you'll almost always hear that with no T. Counter, counter, kitchen counter.
why are you doing this to me? I'm very disappointed. No, wait. Rachel, help me out. It's not disappointed, is it?
Another word set where it's pretty common for Americans to drop the T's. Disappointed.
Sure, I was disappointed I didn't get to wrestle.
And these were just a few examples. How on earth am I supposed to learn American English? I can't even hear the difference. Oh, by the way, have you realized that I say can't wrong too?
Sometimes Americans pronounce can't without the T, so it sounds like can, like this.
People can't even believe it.
People can't even believe it.
I can't even hear the difference, right? Wait, did I just say right, 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 or right? Because you hear right. All of these words are pronounced exactly the same way. So I wonder, why are they not spelled the same way? Okay, guys, let's just say I studied very hard and I know 500,000 words. I know all about grammar because this is also different to the German grammar, by the way. And you might have noticed because I sometimes mix up sentence structures or tenses, that's why. But we will not talk about grammar today. So anyways, I know 500,000 words. I know all the new sounds. I know when to randomly drop letters. But guess what? I would still not sound like an American. Because there's one thing which I have to learn on top, and that is the rhythm. And that is very important to capture the character of a language, but I think there's no one better to explain this to us than Rachel. So, Rachel, please give us an example. So, here you see one sentence, and I will now try to read it out the way I think it's supposed to be. I read, "This is for work." I can't be wrong this time, can I?
I don't want any of my students thinking that that is the correct way to pronounce that sentence. It's not.
It's not?
2 words are longer. This, work, and 2 words are shorter. Is for. This is for work. This is for work.
Okay, let me try this. This is for work. This is for work? I don't know. It's so difficult. On top of all what I've just mentioned, false friends are also giving me a hard time sometimes learning the language. False friends are words that exist in 2 languages that either look similar or sound similar when spoken, but the meaning is not the same. I will give you a few examples. So, the word kind in English means nice and cute, but in German with a capital letter, it is child. The word still, the English meaning is nevertheless however, but in German the meaning is silent. The word spring, well, it's a time of a year, season, but in German it means jump. The list is very long, but to be honest, what I usually do when I don't know a word is that I use the German word and I pronounce it, in English, and surprisingly, it actually gets me quite far, and most of the time the other person can guess what I mean, but sometimes it just does not work out. And one common mistake I hear a lot is that Germans want to say boss, but instead they say chef, which actually means Koch in German. So it's not at all the same thing. And you have to be very careful because the so-called false friends can quickly lead you to the wrong track, and then you and your partner are speaking about totally different things, right? With that being said, it's the end of my today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching again, and auf Wiedersehen!